MetaPlanet issues preferred shares in Japan. The country's yield-starved investor base could price them far more than in the US. What is the ceiling to MTPLF's MetaPlanet strategy?
Well, we're lucky we have Michael R. Sullivan with us tonight.
Awesome.
He's writing the great American Bitcoin novel, but we're going to talk about Japan and how yield-starved they are. Michael, can you walk us through a little bit of what's going on in Japan from your perspective?
Yeah. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for having me. So I love to write. Everybody that follows me knows that. So I was so curious about how this was going to pan out in Japan. I decided to sit down and write a detailed thread about it for my own learning to understand these things and some of the dynamics. And I started that thing bullish. I was like, all right, they're kind of mimicking MicroStrategy, doing similar things. And I left it being like, this is a fundamentally massive shift in the way these strategies are going to function. So very complex topic, these preferred shares that are functioning very similar to like a perpetual bond. The big difference is Japan's yields are so incredibly low comparatively to the US that if they can implement a very similar strategy, even if it's not precisely the same as what Saylor is doing, these things stand to have insanely high Bitcoin torque is the phrase he used. But just in short, like they can pay a lot of dollars or a small amount of dollars now for a boatload of Bitcoin and then arbitrage that difference using the Japanese markets. And blew my mind a little bit going through and doing some of the math.
What is actually the yield in the Japanese capital markets?
So I think I posted a couple in that thread. They're all over the place, or just depending on the duration and stuff. But they're, I think I have it over here. Like anywhere, like so the U.S. numbers, it's like 4 to 5, right? Depending on the duration, like that's sort of where we're sitting right now. Japan, it's like less than 1. There is rumors that they'll be raising soon, but even still, like it sounds like such a small difference because it's like, oh, it's 3% difference or whatever. But when you apply that logic to some of these bond pricing maths, it's the difference of like 4 times larger in the amount of Bitcoin that they could buy for the same dollar. So again, very complex. The most simplistic example I could probably give is like Saylor basically can say he'll pay $10 in perpetuity to buy $100 of Bitcoin today with his new preferred share STRF. That's not precise math, but it's just close for the purposes of this. If he were to launch that exact same product in Japan, since yields are so high, he'd be able to say, I'll give you $10 every year in perpetuity, but get $400 of Bitcoin today. So 4 times as much Bitcoin because of that difference in the jurisdiction there. Again, lots of other complexity on top of that, but just the really simple version, like the 80 IQ pleb style math of this thing is Japan is crazy for this new strategy of these preferred shares. And it's kind of crazy people aren't talking about it more, in my opinion.
It's interesting that MetaPlanet recently has had a pretty significant pullback. MNAV has contracted. So do you think this is going to change things dramatically for the stock?
I'm extremely bullish over the long term for sure. Hard for me to say like shorter term price movements and whatnot, but after going through some of this, I do think they are in literally the optimal jurisdiction in the entire world. Like if you look and see what yields are, every other country in the entire planet, Japan is the perfect one for this right now. Again, it was like deep into this, curious, like, am I crazy? Is this like, why is this not looked at more closely? There are all sorts of smaller countries. Like I think some of the other ones I posted in that thread are like London and Germany have relatively lower yields than the US at least, but Japan is so much lower than the rest of them because of various financial situations there that like I don't really have the time or the knowledge, frankly, to go in depth about. But they are the perfect jurisdiction to do this preferred share strategy that Saylor is doing.
Do we know, are they going to launch something similar to Stretch, like a money market type fund initially, or are they going to do a series of preferreds across different, different types of markets?
I think we're going to find out in about a month here. At least that's kind of theorized. There's 2 that I heard Dylan posted about recently. I don't know exactly which ones they correspond to. They were kind of short on details in that one. I'm hoping for a STRC, like just because already that's been so successful, and you can already see like just how much the people in Japan are starved for yield. So like stuff like that would just be perfect for their situation.
Cool. Exciting.
Yeah. Thank
It's gonna be
you
wild.
for this insight. We'll have you back when you got the novel out.
Thank you so much, gents. I appreciate the time.
You bet. Have a good night.
Be well.